I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Evanoff. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, future Jiu-Jitsu world champion, Angel Ortega. Folks, we got a lot on the docket this week. Obviously, it is UFC 290 Fight Week, International Fight Week, going down this week from Las Vegas, Nevada. However, we do have a lot to get into outside of that. As always, we're brought to you by two fantastic sponsors of the show, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Rogue Energy keep me fueled up, keep me going through my day. It was July 4th, and I had a lot to do, and you know what kept me going? Rogue Energy. But whenever I decide to wind down at the end of the night, I decided to use ELYXR with their excellent Delta 8, 9, and 10 products. They got it all over there, and you can get it for code SOUNDOFF. Code SOUNDOFF for both sponsors, once again, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Code SOUNDOFF, 10% off of each. Last Saturday night from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, baby, we're back at the Apex, you know. It's just back once again for a fight card, much more of a low-key one. Sean Strickland taking on Abus Magomedov in the main event. You know, we kind of said going into this fight that we thought maybe, you know, Abus could maybe show us something. In that first round, he looked to be, you know, putting some things together, landing some big shots. But the reality is I mean, sometimes it's not good to put a guy with about 15 seconds of UFC experience against Sean Strickland, who's a top 5 guy. It did not work out too well. In the end, Sean Strickland gets his first finish in a while by second round knockout, just walks him down. It made it look easy, honestly. This looks like a top 5 guy facing an unranked guy. He called for a title shot after the win. Do you think Sean Strickland will actually get a title shot now riding a 2-fight winning?
I mean, it depends. It depends what happens this weekend. You know, I think that's another thing that needs to be concluded before any actions taken afterwards. Because if Rodriguez ends up coming out and beating Robert, I guess you gotta. I mean, it's kind of hard to not choose Rodriguez over Sean. But I mean, Sean's put himself in the conversation once again. You know, he was right there before the Alex fight. If he would have won the Alex fight, it would have been him in that position. But ended up not going his direction in that fight. So it's nice to see he kind of came back from that Jared Cannonier win earlier this year. I mean, I guess it was at the end of last year, and then right back at the start of the year with the short notice fight against Nazarene, and then obviously it's shutting down what they hoped a potential interesting guy in Abus. I wonder why the UFC decided to do this though. Like they just was it just like they couldn't give Sean anybody else because everybody was booked. And he's like, I just want to fight. Just give me fucking anybody. Or if they genuinely wanted to give Abus a ranked opponent, regardless if it was Sean or not.
So, from what I have heard, Sean said that he badly wanted to fight. He wanted to get paid. And that they said that they offered him to a couple other guys. They turned it down. So it was basically fight an unranked guy like Abus or wait a couple of months. And he didn't want to wait any longer. Well, he also offered to fight at 205. It did not end up happening. So that's pretty much why this fight came together. You know, on the title shot thing, I'm pretty much on your side. I'm in that camp. Realistically speaking, Izzy's going to fight in September, correct? That's when the UFC is going back to Australia?
Yep.
Angel? Yeah, September 10th.
No official opponent, yeah. But yeah.
No official opponent. However, Izzy is at the top of the bill. I believe it's literally part of the deal they have with the country of Australia. Like, Izzy has to be at the top of the bill. So, honestly, I think it just depends on how this fight goes this weekend with Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis. I think if the winner of that fight comes out too banged up to fight in September, I think Sean Strickland will actually get a title shot. Not necessarily because he deserves it. I think realistically, I mean, I think Jared Cannonier probably deserves it more, but at the same time, he did just lose to Izzy last July. So, I think Sean Strickland, it just depends on how things go this weekend. Admittedly, I don't think there's a lot to say about this fight. I mean, he showed the levels, all right? You know, I mean, it's not that often that we get fights like this where it's just like an unranked guy taking on a top 5, top 7 type guy. And it wasn't even close, dude. Huge win for Strickland. We'll wait to see what happens. But like I said, because of the uncertainty right now with UFC 290 and that middleweight fight, not a whole lot to add, but we will see what happens. Honestly, dude, I really think the biggest thing coming out of this card was Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson is a fucking problem. I mean, he went out there, UFC Vegas 76, and dominates Damir Ismagulov, who is another just absolute world beater. 24-2 going into the fight, only lost in the UFC to Arman Sarukian. And dude, Damir just got manhandled. What did you think about Grant Dawson picking up the win? You've always had your eye on this kid as a potential top future lightweight.
I mean, he got it done, man. I mean, I picked him last week. It feels so nice to come out of that one because it was a hard fight for him, and he got it done. And granted, like I said, there was some stuff going into that fight for me. Like he talked about retirement. I'm talking about Damir, not about Grant. He talked about retirement. He's like, well, I only fight again if it's against Arman and this and that. But still came out in I'd say gave an alright performance. Obviously, didn't get to win, but I mean, granted, I think that's more due to Grant's such a good performance. By the way, did you see that he did an interview with Renato Moicano on his YouTube channel?
I did not see that.
Dude, it was so fucking entertaining. If you haven't watched it, and did you even know he had a YouTube channel? It has like 10K subs, but the content is really, really good.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of guys right now that are doing like making their own content, and they're actually making like high quality stuff. I even saw I'm pretty sure like Parker Porter has like a YouTube channel or something. Like every fighter has a YouTube channel right now. Yeah,
that's how you know, right? But kind of to rally it back in, the reason I mentioned that is he brought Grant on to talk to him a little bit, and they talked about potential matchups. So I think they told, from what he said, and I could be wrong, I might be mixing it up, they told him that he'll get the winner of Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner. They said that they're working on a matchup for Arman with potentially Beneil Dariush or Fiziev. I can't remember. Or Fiziev with Dariush, one of the two. There's something in the works there as far as those guys. And then or I think it was Artie, and then I think RDA's in the mix in there as well.
Interesting. Yeah, dude. I mean, there's the lightweight division is heating up right now. You mentioned Grant said the fight was going to fight the winner of Dan Hooker, and obviously Jalen Turner. I think that's an interesting and good fight. Next, obviously depending on how it goes. Anyway, as a Dan Hooker fan, I like the Jalen Turner matchup. Don't like one with Grant Dawson. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, man. I mean, I was so impressed by that win. I remember going into that fight thinking we saw what Arman Sarukian did to Damir, and obviously you mentioned the retirement stuff and a couple other things going into his fight with Grant anyway. But dude, I was just so impressed. I never expected him to dominate because there was not a single aspect of that fight was close. I mean, I said that he won by decision. It was a 30-26 across the board, so it wasn't even close. Extremely impressed by him. Excited to see his next fight. As far as the rest of the card goes, dude, I mean, we had a couple of big wins. We had a couple of big finishes. Which fights do you most want to highlight?
Oh, man. There were so many good. I'll put it like this. Coming out of this Apex card, there was a lot of upsets. There was a lot of highlight performances. I think every win, I mean, and granted, when you win, it's a highlight performance, but there was just guys who I did not expect to win on this card who did. I mean, and I'm going to start with this one. My pick of fighter of the week to watch, Ismail Bonfim, got upset by your guy that you highlighted a while back, Josh.
Yeah.
And Ismail was the betting favorite. He had a lot of attention. He got a lot of hype from that Brazil card earlier this year. And then he comes in here and it was, I'm not going to say it didn't seem like the same guy, but man, it almost didn't seem like the same guy a little bit there. I mean, I do think it's just a pebble in the road, you know, but I mean, wow. And that wasn't the only one. The other one on this card was, and this one's a little different because it was a new UFC signing, which obviously they signed this guy hoping that he would be good. But after Bruno Verrea's performance in Brazil as well, another guy who had a breakout performance in Brazil, he had that big knockout win over Gregory Rodriguez. We get Muristan Ruzabov. I'm butchering the hell out of that. Coming in on short notice and giving us a beautiful sequence in the first round. Josh grabs the leg, follows it with the right hand, and then drills him into the ground, followed by ground and pound. Sick finish out of him. I think for me, the highlight fighter coming out of the week is Nurlston. Must watch, must see TV.
Yeah, you highlighted a couple of big wins there. Obviously, Benoit St. Denis. I got to go ahead and shout out that kid. I mean, you were a bit surprised. I highlighted him a long time ago. This kid out of France, the God of War is his nickname, dude. I mean, there was no way he was losing. I mean, jokes aside, I mean, I saw his UFC debut against Celestino dos Santos, and I remember correctly, that was like a short notice fight too. He got bludgeoned. I mean, there's only been a couple of times where I've been watching MMA fights where I've been like, I'm like worried. Cause I've seen enough. Like, I generally, like, have a good eye for those things, you know, like, on how bad stuff gets. I thought Benoit St. Denis is gonna die in that fight. I thought stuff was getting really bad. But that also showed his heart. And, I mean, for a kid as young as that, like, there's some things that you can't teach. You can't teach heart. And he was like 25, coming in on short notice. Since then, he's won 3 in a row, all by finish. He's a bad man to watch moving forward. Ismail Bonfim, same page, actually. I still think, even though he lost here, that was only like the 3rd or 4th loss of his career. Still a relatively young guy in his 20s coming out of Brazil. He still has a lot of growth to do moving forward. Just wasn't his night last Saturday. Angel, I have to say it. We found out where Kevin Lee fits in the UFC. And I hate it. I hate it. As a Kevin Lee fan, I hate where he fits in. Because he fits in not very well at this stage in his career.
They give him they give him a terrible matchup too. That's another thing you need to think about. And on top of that, it just wasn't going to go well, man. What I was going to say is, if there was a fight on this card, there's very few times, you know, there's very few fights where I'm 100% sure someone's going to win. Where I could bet my whole life on it. I can bet everything I own. This is one of those fights, Josh, where I knew Kevin Lee was 100% going to lose.
Well, yeah, okay, so here's the thing. I mean, I thought Kevin Lee, going into this fight, I'm a Kevin Lee nut hugger. I love the guy. I've always been a fan of the Motown Phenom. But at the same time, I knew that things were not going to go well for him in this fight. I did not expect him to get rocked, dropped, and then choked out cold in 55 seconds. I just didn't expect it.
Dude, you can't deny it, though. It's kind of cool, though. Like, what a killer, right?
Dude, it was a sick finish. The picture of Renat walking away goes extremely hard, you know?
The whole sequence is badass. Like, I'm not gonna lie. There's a moment after I'm like, damn, dude, this guy might have killed someone before. Like, I had that.
I mean, but here's the worst part, man, is like you said going into it, like, you knew what was gonna happen, and like, dude, so did I, and so did the UFC, and they got what they wanted. You know what I mean? And it makes me so mad because the UFC wanted this shit to happen, and they got what they wanted, and I hate that. I hate when they get what they want, when they feed these kind of, and like, look, Kevin Lee is only like 30, but his body is not 30. His body is like 45 falling apart, made of duct tape. You know what I mean? And he was wearing like what was it, 2 knee guards in there, like moving kind of slowly. Some people thought maybe he'd been hurt or something, like he's fighting with an injury. I don't know about any of that, but like, dude, just so depressing. I mean, so depressing. I mean, I saw him on Fight Week talking about like, he was like, yeah, I was really excited to return to the UFC, but now I'm at the Apex and it just feels like we're killing the sport for money. Like, we're not even having fights outside the Apex. Like, what's the point, you know? Like, I'm like, yeah, man, I've been saying that for a while now, Kevin Lee, you know? But yeah, I mean, that's sucked to see. I think he'll be back. I mean, he still is only 30. Here's the worst part is I think Kevin Lee still has some value in the UFC, but it's like a veterans fight guy.
Yeah, he needs to be fighting guys like, I mean, he could have fought Robbie Lawler. He could have fought Nico Price. He could have fought
Tony Ferguson, Matt Brown, Jim Miller.
Like, and granted, maybe if things go well, maybe you could develop him in the direction of, or start pushing him in the direction of the higher echelon. But this was not the move right now, man. That was not the guy. But look, another guy that we need to talk about this, Josh, because this was I don't want to say it was coming out party, but it was a good test for him. Michael Morales against Max Payne Griffin. You know, he looked good the whole fight, but you saw that the Max kind of pushed him, right? In aspects of the fight, made him go to distance. For once in his UFC tenure so far, Michael Morales wasn't able to finish his opponent. In this fight. I mean, look, there's a reason he's 14-0, now 15-0. I mean, he looks like the real deal. I mean, he's due for. Is it time for a ranked opponent, Josh? Are we done waiting? I mean, they've already.
I think they got to give him a ranked one. Yeah.
I mean, they've already pushed Ian Gary, Jack Dilla Maddalena, Michelle Pehea. I mean, those guys are right there, 15, 14, 13. I mean, I think it's time.
I think they should give him Jack Dilla Maddalena after this weekend. Why not?
I mean, Josh, you never know. Jack could lose.
Who he's fighting? Who's the guy he's fighting? He's a short notice guy, right?
Josiah Harrell.
Coming up from lightweight? Yeah, what are we doing? Should we not? I'm sorry. I mean, no offense to Josiah Harrell.
Come on, Josh. He's so strong. He drilled him through the door at LFA. You didn't see that clip?
No. Actually, I actually like Josiah Harrell. He's a fun guy. I've seen him fight in LFA, but I'm saying he's a lightweight, bro.
I know. I'm being.
Weight class exists for a reason. Jack Dilla Maddalena might be a future champion at 170.
But you guys said Brandon Moreno could be an NFL player.
Yeah, I love people that can't wrap their heads around that. I've seen big guys say that before. Bro, I could totally beat up a flyweight. Bro, weight classes exist for a reason. Yeah, weight classes exist for fighters, you fucking moron. You're Joe off the street. You fucking go to a Lifetime Fitness, dude. What are you doing? I love people like that though, because I just want to see them actually go into a gym one time. But probably won't.
But we need to talk about someone else. Alexander Romanov bouncing back, but granted though, they kind of gave him a layup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate to word it like that, but they put him in a good matchup to kind of be all right, are you still with us?
If he couldn't beat Blagoy, it's curtains basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did it in I'd say relatively good fashion. You would have liked to seen him get to finish, get to submission, but I think overall he did a good job. They both had you gotta give them credit for the takedowns and some of the output they had. They had pretty good cardio. I gotta give both the guys credit. I mean, yeah, of course they're gonna look tired. Do they look a little slow? Yeah, these guys are fucking 200 plus pounds, man. They're not gonna move. They're not gonna be fucking flyweights, But he got moved up the rankings, number 13 now, passing Blagoy, passing Chris Dawkins. Now the lower half. I don't know. I wonder if this is kind of where he turns. I wonder what happened before, because in his two performances before, man, it looked a little sketch. It looked like we kind of had not the same guy, Cause man, dude, he was beating those guys who weren't ranked the way he should have been. He was finishing them. The Juan Espino one was a fun fight. Obviously it ended in a shitty way. I can't remember if it was a groin strike or an eye poke and they weren't able to continue it, and they had to the way it worked, since it entered the third round and they fought part of the third round, they had to score.
They scored it.
They scored they had already scored the first two rounds, so they scored what was left of the third round. And I remember at the time and ended up thinking it was actually Espino's had won the fight, because he, in my opinion, he had won the third. Speaking about Juan Espino, Josh, what the fuck happened to Juan Espino?
Juan Espino retired.
Did he do that silently? No.
He very quietly, a year after his last fight. It was only a couple of months ago. But yeah, he quietly announced his retirement. And I thought, dude, it was April. It was April 21st. He announced his retirement. Damn, almost a year exactly after his last fight.
Wow, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, it sucks. I think Juan Espino was man, he's a low-key all-time what if, you know what I mean? I don't know how many people will agree with this. I don't think many people know who Juan Espino is, but I
think the issue was too, he came back to MMA older, because he debuted in 2009, and then he had his first professional loss, and granted, it was against Vitaly Minakov. No fucking shame there.
Yeah, for real, right?
And then he didn't come back for a whole 6 years. And then he went on a win streak, and then he got the call up to fight on the Ultimate Fighter. And I mean, the rest is history from there.
Yeah, I mean, he was fucking 37, 38 when he won the Ultimate Fighter. He's probably one of the, I don't know if anybody kept track of this, but he's probably the oldest guy to win the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, he has to be, right? Who else could it be?
I have no idea. He was literally almost 40 years old. But great wrestler, El Guapo, man. I mean, he had so much potential. It just sucks to see it go the way that it did.
And there's a lot of guys like that. Him and the Fire Kid, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, I mean, for Espino, anyway, I mean, that Romanov fight, I remember thinking he probably should have deserved the decision anyway.
Same.
But they didn't give it to him. and that was his last fight, and he retired. It just sucks. I mean, he's an all-time what if for me. I looked it up. Yeah, 6 out of 8 people gave it to media scores gave it to Espino. The other 2 declaring it a draw. So none of them thought Romanov deserved the win. Yeah, man, damn shame. Juan Espino, all-time what if in my opinion. Because he lost a year because of injuries and just so much too. So that sucks. Why'd you got to bring that up, Angel? I'm sad now.
What do you want me to tell you, man?
Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, closing thoughts. What's your final thoughts of Vegas 76? Give me a score out of 10. Why not?
Dude, this is like 8.5. It's up there.
Oh, really? You had a lot of fun with this one.
Because they had a lot of finishes. There was a lot of, things you didn't expect and things you did expect and kind of surprising moments. I mean, it was a fun card, man. It was nice to see Romanov bounce back. And then Elvis Brenner and Garam had a banger of a fight. Giovanni Simberto kind of building his way up in the featherweight division. I mean, not flyweight division. And then right after being devastated by seeing Kevin Lee getting almost knocked out and choked out minutes later, and seeing guys kind of rise. Nerlston making a big debut, Michael Morales establishing himself as a 170, Grant Dawson making himself known at 155, and then Sean Strickland cementing his place in 185, saying it will not be letting go. There was a lot to appreciate on this card. I think this will be. I don't think it'll be remembered, but this is actually, I think, so far out of the year, and I said this not too long ago, I think this is one of the best cards we've had, and it was in the Apex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? When you put it in perspective like that, you're not entirely wrong. Solid. It was a solid card. I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's pretty fun, man. Yeah. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, like I said, I'm in that same range, 8.5 somewhere.
Yeah. But, let's be honest, Angel. We were rating that on a bit of a curve to the other UFC Apex events. Because if we're comparing to UFC 290, I don't think it's going to be.
Granted, though, it's a pay-per-view. We got a crowd. We got some titles on the line. There's a lot to it, man.
I know, but this is the elite of the elite when it comes to UFC events. Let's go, boys. International Fight Week going down currently in Las Vegas, Nevada. Shame we couldn't make it out this year, but nonetheless, an incredible card going down this Saturday night. In the main event, Alexander the Great Volkanovski back for the first time since his loss to Islam Makhachev back in February, 25-2, taking on interim featherweight champion El Pantera, Yair Rodriguez, riding a 2-fight winning streak. Last defeated Josh Emmett by submission in February, on the undercard of 284. What do you think about this one, man? Obviously, Volkanovski, he's a heavy favorite, but even he's acknowledged, Yair, he's a wild guy. We don't know how things will go. He's probably the most dangerous opponent I've faced to date. What do you think, man?
Wow, we made it, man. We made it finally after kind of it was getting a little rough there with those cards, man, but I think last week kind of made up for it. And like I said, we're here for the pay-per-view. Like I said, 2 titles on the line, champ in the main event. I know you laid it out there for me. I just wanted to reiterate it one more time for the people in the back who weren't listening. What else could you say, man? I mean, Volk has cemented himself probably, arguably as the best fighter on the planet. I mean, people are going to be like, John Jones is still here. But, Alexander Volkanovski has fought his whole time in the UFC with no breaks in comparison where John Jones has had multiple layoffs in recent time. But, regardless, it's crazy how different this whole situation could have been if Volk would have won that title at 155 and all of that. Man, who else would you want as opponent right now at this time? I guess the only, in a different world where things maybe shake out differently, maybe Ilya is in this situation. Who knows, right? I'm just saying if fights go a different way, things don't get scheduled right, people maybe get injured. But, Yair Rodriguez is here, man. We've been talking about it the whole year. It's been the rise of the Mexican fighters in 2023, man. There's been a lot of success coming along. And I think this is a big night, man. One thing I do want to say, and I want to say it at the top of the show right now, is I do think no matter what, I think, and granted, obviously I could be completely wrong here. I don't think both Mexican fighters lose tonight. And that might be a little hard to believe for some people because of how dominant Volk has been at 145, and because of the history Brandon Moreno and Pantoja has. But believe me, guys, I refuse to believe both of these guys are going to lose this upcoming Saturday. One of them is going to come out victorious. I know that for a fact, and hold that title. Obviously, obviously it's very possible they both lose, they both win, but I don't see a world where at least in my personal opinion, I don't think they both lose. Regardless, to get into the fight, I mean, Yair, if you've ever kept up with his UFC career, I mean, you know him, you know his style, a variety of kicks, rangy attacks from everywhere, wild, doesn't mind getting in the fire, jiu-jitsu capabilities, a taekwondo background dating back to, ever since he was a little kid. Was looking to at one point potentially reach the Mexican national Olympic team. Obviously, sadly for things didn't shape out. But at the same time, maybe thankfully, because maybe we wouldn't have Yair Rodriguez here now. Mm-hmm. Regardless, though, I gotta give credit to Volk, man. Tough puzzle. Has been figuring out his fight IQ has grown incredibly. He feels comfortable in every situation. His decision making's been on point. I will say, man, if there is one guy I think right now who could just catch Volk, surprise Volk, and come out of nowhere, I think that's Yair Rodriguez. Like, insert any of the guys right now. You're talking Ilya, Max, Mozart, anybody. If there's one guy I think could shock us all, come out here and boom, put out Volk's lights, it's Yair Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. But with that all being said, Josh, I'm picking Alexander the Great on the night.
Oh, there we go. You had me. I thought you were going to do it, and you changed up. Look, I'm on the same page as you. I think, realistically speaking, Alexander Volkanovski is head and shoulders above this division. Right now, at this point in time, I don't think anybody can touch him skill for skill. I think Max Holloway is the second greatest guy, and we saw what happened in that trilogy fight. I think Volkanovski over the last year has taken such a step up that nobody, just skill for skill can go with him. I don't think not Volkanovski. I don't think Rodriguez is going to try and go for skill. I think he's going to try and put his lights out. I think he's going to try and get a big finish. I just don't think it's going to matter. I think Alexander Volkanovski and still on Saturday night. I think Yair's going to go out there. I think he's going to catch him. I think he's going to give him some trouble. And Yair, we'll see how it goes. But I think if there's a guy, like you mentioned, that could potentially put in that work, potentially pull off the upset, probably going to be El Pantera. But I still think that it's going to be and still on Saturday night. Nonetheless, though, you mentioned that there is two Mexican champions on this event. And in the co-main event, we have Brandon Moreno taking on Alexander Pantoja in a trilogy fight. They have the 2 on the poster. I don't understand why sometimes they count Ultimate Fighter fights, and sometimes they don't.
Wait, for what fight have they done that they actually counted it?
They counted it for Diaz and Maynard. They fought once in TUF, once in the UFC, and they fought again in the UFC, and then they labeled the trilogy. So they've done it in the past.
Interesting. I wonder why they decided not to go with it this time.
I don't know.
Politics.
Probably, yeah. UFC politics. That's exactly right. But then, anyways, yeah. So Alexander Pantoja, he defeated Brandon Moreno back in August 2016 when they were both on the Ultimate Fighter Tournament of Champions. And then he also beat him back in May 2018 by decision. I believe that was a loss that sent Moreno out of the UFC for the time being as well. Very, very exciting fight. Obviously, Moreno coming off of that win over Davison Figueiredo in January, where he pretty much won the final meeting of those two. I have been banging the drum that the Cannibal needs a title shot. I've been banging the drum. I've said he's the best man on the planet. Now it's finally here. I'm not sure how he'll do. What do you think, Angel? I think this is my best fight of the card. I'm most excited for this fight.
I think it's because of the history, man. Anytime guys have history, it just makes the fight just that much better. And I talked about this when originally this fight, I don't remember if it was scheduled or rumored, but they were supposed to fight at one point when, I can't remember if it was Brandon had the title or he was earned term champ. Regardless.
It was, before the trilogy with Figueroa, they offered, it was supposed to be Pantoja, but then he got hurt, so then they gave it, to Figgy. So, yeah, they were supposed to fight about a year and a half ago.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And what I was going to say was that at the time I said, and still now, I said, this is a big fight for Brandon. It's a legacy-making fight because, and it's very, I want to say it's very different from the Alex and Izzy. I would like to make parallels, but I'm not going to because the situations are very drastically different. I think you can draw from those, but I'm not going to in this situation. I'm sure, and people have already done it. I'm gonna try to give a different perspective on it. Mm-hmm. But Yeah, I mean, this is a big fight because it's gonna, like, Brandon is the champ. But the thing is, if you've kept up with the division, if you care about this division at all, and like these fighters at all, you realize how meaningful and important this fight is because of the fact that Alexander Volkanovski has beat him twice. He beat him with the Ultimate Fighter. He first round, the number 16 seed, first seed, put him out, and it was a devastating loss. And you gotta, and I don't know if people remember that fight at all, but Brandon had some moments early on looking good. And then, Pantoja caught him with some shots, and it just drained Brandon, and he got beat up from there. And I want to say, I genuinely believe that Brandon isn't the same kid from back then. You look at his body, you look at his physical, it's not the same. And on top of that, with him working on the Spanish commentary desk, I feel like it's taken his knowledge and his fight IQ to a new level, observing fights, learning. I mean, there's a reason he chose at the time, our boy Josh, from Glory, James Krause as his coach, because he had been analyzing so many fights and he's watching coaches. He's like, I picked James Krause because I think he's the best at his job, Mm-hmm. And we saw it when he made the change and he brought James Krause, is what it did for him as a fighter, and it helped him grow. And you got to give Brandon some more credit because I think some of that came out of himself too, because he then he lost the trilogy, but then in the fourth, it was the fourth, right? I mean, they fought so many times. Was it the fourth fight, Josh? Was it quadrilogy?
Yeah, fourth, yeah.
The fourth fight, he looked great. His decision making has gotten to a great point. There's something that a lot of athletes get, Josh, and you hear soccer players, football players, and basketball players talk about this, and even fighters all the time about how you reach you need to learn how to just do certain things while going. There's no thought, like you're already doing it before. It's just a reaction. You know what I mean? Your awareness of continuation is there. You're already positioned for the rebound because you know how it bounces from that specific position. You recognize a pattern and you know where to go. Whatever it may be, right? You know to make this pass because you see this position, X, Y, and Z, and defenders that where, regardless. I think Brandon has developed that skill finally, and it's what's pushed him to be in the position he is now, on top of not just improving his physical and developing as a fighter and growing. And for Pantoja, man, I mean, what can you say? This guy is a specimen, right? Powerful, great ground game, is willing to come forward and get in the fire, and so is Brandon. And he thrives in the chaos. He can find control in the chaos. Whereas I think Brandon isn't trying to flow in the chaos, if not so much just be part of it. Mm-hmm. Which I think that's where Pantoja could find a lot of success. But I think we got a new Brandon Moreno. I think there's a reason he's the champ, and he regained that title, and he beat Davis Ferreira, who we thought, Josh, and we mentioned it, we thought Davis was going to have a long reign. We thought Davis was going to be around for a few years.
Yeah.
Ended up not being the case. Brandon Moreno came along, and I think in a way, him having those fights with Davison made him a better fighter. I mean, I think it's one of the greatest things that probably could have, and who knows if Brandon thinks this, but I think that him having those fights made him a better fighter. It made him be who he is now. And for that reason, I'm picking Brandon Moreno.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you on a couple of things you said there. I think those losses, without those losses to Alexander Pantoja, I don't think Brandon Moreno is the man that he is today. Full agreement on that. And I also do think he's going to give a better fight on Saturday than he's given Alexander Pantoja in the past. I think there's a very good possibility that this is going to end up being the moment whenever we're kind of like, okay, he's here. I think, okay, there's one or two things that are going to happen on Saturday night. It's going to be a star-making performance for Brandon Moreno because he's avenging his prior losses, and we're like, okay. Because I think if he gets through Pantoja, I don't think anybody in the front of the division can give him much of a challenge right now. Are you in agreement with that?
To an extent. I don't think it's going to be a dominant reign if he wins this fight, but I think there's guys that will present. I feel like Brandon at times will make certain fights harder than they have to be. Mm-hmm. With some of the guys coming up, not necessarily because he's making mistakes, but because of the abilities and the fight styles the guys are going to bring, like guys like Brandon Royval, like guys like Amir Albazi who are on the come up and right there knocking at the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that.
After those guys, I think that I agree with that point.
Yeah, I mean, I generally think Pantoja is Moreno's biggest test in the division. And I think if he gets through him, he'll have, smooth sailing, at least for a while. I don't think he will. I think Alexander Pantoja and New on Saturday. I think this is a guy that has been, if this were any other division, people would be screaming from the fucking rooftops how shameful it is that Alexander Pantoja's had to win. Because he had his title shot a year and a half ago. He was supposed to get it at UFC, I believe it was 270 or something. The undercard of Ngannou and Gane. He was supposed to fight Moreno. But due to an injury, he offered the fight, he accepted, he got hurt like the first week of training camp. So then they had to make him wait. But not only did they make him wait, they had to make him fight again. And he went out there and he dominated Alex Perez. And he's been sitting waiting for a year since that fight. If this were any other division, people would be screaming from the rooftops that Pantoja needs a title shot. I think he's been waiting. He's been sitting around watching the late division. He's been watching everybody talk about Brandon Miranda. You don't think he sees that? He's going to go out there. I think he puts in a big win on Saturday. I think and New. And I think he does it in style. Alexander Pantoja. I think he's a bad man. I wish more people paid more attention to him. Because I think he's in the top 5, most entertaining guys in the UFC, period. He's very, very fun to watch. He's a bad motherfucker, and he's going to be your flyweight champion after Saturday. Likely. We'll see. Like I said, Brandon Moreno could win. I'm a huge Pantoja guy, but we'll see. Nonetheless, what do you think about this one, dude? I mean, a middleweight fight between Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis. I don't know what there is to say about this one. I mean, Robert Whittaker, you know him, very, very calm, very technical. Dricus du Plessis, he's just Donkey Kong, just busting through the cage, just running forward, doing whatever he can, no matter what. What do you think about this fight, man? It's definitely a fight of different styles, for sure.
Are you not excited for a new mythical fighter on lock, Josh? 100% oxygen intake, Dricus du Plessis.
100% oxygen intake. We'll see.
What if it does What if he comes out, dude? He has Nate Diaz level cardio. Holy fuck, that's actually kind of scary. You kind of hope
if he has Nate Diaz level cardio, he'll never lose again. I mean,
right? But man, I mean, you got to give credit to Dricus, man. He has made it this far through utter will, man. Just pushing through it. Doesn't matter how fucking tired he is, he's still fucking there, dude. I mean, that's what it's taken. It hasn't been like a smooth run, but it's still had some good highlight performances along the way. I mean, he is literally he is a bruiser, right? I mean, there's no other way you could put it. Mm-hmm. But he's fighting Robert Whittaker. That's the only issue, man. I mean, I think a lot of people weren't ever picking Dricus during any of these fights or at least we're talking I think some people might have picked him against to beat Darren Till, which I mean, not the smartest decision. Didn't people picked against him for Derek? I think there was even a handful for Brad Tavares. A lot of people call him the best worst UFC fighter because somehow, he continues to win. And I get that sentiment, but you got to give this guy credit because he had success at the UFC. He had good performance in KSW and EFC. There's a reason he's made it this far. Granted, though, I won't deny, I am surprised that he has made, with the performances he has given and how he has looked. You kind of wonder, he made it all the way here, but it's I mean, if he fights anybody in the top 5 outside of Robert too, we're talking Marvin Victoria, Jared Kennedy, or does he beat those guys? Does he beat Izzy now? I don't think you're screaming at those thoughts. I mean, obviously, if he beats Robert Whittaker here, well, shit, this guy, I mean, the sky's the limit, man. I mean, he's right there for a title shot, Mm-hmm. I think I've been one of the few, Josh, that has picked Dricus, though, in pretty much all his fights. So I'll take a little bit of credit on that there myself. But I mean, this one's an easy one, Josh. I mean, for me, it's Robert Whittaker all day. I mean, the guy is, and it's no disrespect. I mean, it really is Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, and the rest of the division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, looking at this fight, man, I mean, realistically, you mentioned that Dricus could potentially come out here with 100% oxygen intake, right? And he comes out with Nate Diaz level cardio. I think if he comes out with Nate Diaz level cardio, I mean, I think we'll be having a conversation here. But, I mean, look, man, I think Robert Whittaker is so good. I mean, if you listened to the show before, you know how highly I view him. I think he's going to go out there and just dominate. I mean, I like Rodriguez. I think he might have some big moments. He might catch Robert in this, but I don't think there's a single facet of the fight where Rodriguez is better than Robert. And I also think that Rodriguez has a gas tank problem and so on and so forth. I hate that they booked this fight. Like I've said for a while, like I'm a Robert Whittaker fan, and I'm very well aware that with a win here, he's probably going to get a trilogy and a title shot. Super cool. But as an MMA fan, like, dude, how can you just throw away the rivalry between Izzy and Rodriguez? Like, these guys fucking hate each other. Like, why would you even book this fight?
Do they actually hate each other though? I don't think they do.
I think they do. I think they probably do actually hate each other. I think when we start talking about like races and shit, it's like people actually take that stuff seriously, and nationalities and stuff.
You're not wrong, but I think I'm one of the few that doesn't think that beef goes that far. Like there is some beef, but it's not as much as you would think.
It's not Jones DC. Like I'm not.
Well, yeah.
I'm not delusional. Like
we can't look at each other. Need a line of security there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not delusional, but I'm very well aware they don't like each other, and I think they could have had a fun rivalry, but that's now probably not going to happen after this weekend.
No.
But hey, I mean, God willing, though, if he comes out here with his Diaz level, I mean,
100% oxygen intake.
Exactly. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I just said he's 100% oxygen intake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, anyways, man, I think that I'm gonna go out there. I think he's gonna go out there and get a big win.
I think the one thing that Rodriguez does look forward to in this fight, though, Josh, is that it is 3 rounds.
That is huge. It's a very good thing for him that it is 3 rounds. If it was, Jesus Christ, could you imagine this is a 5-round like main event or something?
But
he
granted,
might die.
I mean, at the same time for Robert, I mean, that's also good, right? Because he also knows it's like, well, I mean, it's 3 rounds. This fucker might come out crazy. I just need to be prepared.
Yeah, that's true. Nonetheless, man, I think Robert Whittaker is going to go out there and put on a show on Saturday night. I think that he knows how close he is to getting that potential title shot in trilogy. I think he's not going to let it slip out of his hands. So, expecting some big things out of him, out of the Reaper on Saturday. Nonetheless, though, this is UFC 290. It's an international fight. This card is stacked. We'll keep on going. Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, who is riding a really good winning streak right now, man. 5 fights. Oh,
he was. I said he was.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. My bad. He did suffer a split decision loss to Mateus Gamrot back in March. Prior to that, he was riding a 5-fight winning streak with some big names. He's looking to get back on the winning track here. Meanwhile, Dan Hooker, the Hangman, been out of action since a knockout win over Claudio Puelles last November. Some people thought maybe that could be that fight was going to be a very important one for Hooker. If he lost that one, who knows what would have happened in terms of his ranking and his placement. In the end, he stayed there. He's staying competitive and trying to move up the lightweight division. What do you think about this one? I think it's a fun fight, and I don't know how I feel about it though. I think this could be. I don't know, man. What do you think about this one? I want to give away my pick before you go first.
Oh, right. No, I mean, these guys were supposed to fight earlier this year. Originally, the Gamrot Turner fight was supposed to be Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner, but I believe Dan suffered an injury, so we didn't end up getting that at the time. But we still are getting it this year, so that's good because it was a banger of a fight. And I think it was on a pay-per-view too. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. And for Jalen Turner, man, I mean, there's a lot. He's young. He still has a lot of time. I think a loss here doesn't set him too far back. Obviously, not ideal because it'd be 2 against 2 ranked opponents and 2 very good ranked opponents at that. And for Dan Hooker, man, he has a tough out here because he's a young guy as well. Guy who's looked good, has been is kind of stringing things together. I think it's the first time Dan Hooker is actually shorter than his opponent and has a reach disadvantage as well. I believe. Damn. I think it's something that I heard. Because, I mean, it just goes to show how fucking tall Jalen Turner is. And I almost wonder, man, and if Dan Hooker comes out here, maybe does some stuff similar to, and obviously not to the same extent, but as Gamrot, maybe there was you saw kind of a map, there's a road map there now. And it's funny because I think Jalen Turner even said when he's preparing for during the Gamrot fight week that he said he was working on his wrestling and takedown because he thought that Dan Hooker might potentially go to that. And Dan Hooker does have some does have some jiu-jitsu and wrestling capabilities. He's gotten some submissions. At the same time, Jalen Turner has gotten some submissions while in the process of being taken down and during scrumbles. So obviously very dangerous there. And with Izzy working on his takedowns a lot recently in jiu-jitsu game and ground game, you kind of wonder if that transferred over to the gym because, obviously, so has Volk, with obviously preparing for the Islam matchup. So they've all kind of been working in that department. Maybe Dan Hooker shows us a new layer to his game potentially there. Regardless, though, Josh, my pick is going to be Dan Hooker. I think he's going to come back, get 2 in a row, and kind of try to get back on track where he once was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same page here. I think Dan Hooker's going to go out there and get a big win. I think he's still he suffered some losses at the top level. Obviously, losses to Poirier, Chandler, Makhachev, and Allen down at featherweight. I would like to remind people, again, 3 of those guys are in the top 6. Chandler, Poirier, and Makhachev. Dan Hooker is still a bad man. And I think he can beat some of these guys at the bottom end of the division. Not the bottom end of the division, bottom end of the ranked guys. So I think he'll go out there and probably beat Jalen Turner on Saturday. Bo Nickel is back, and he's opening up the pay-per-view. Obviously, we know the story here. One of the best prospects in the UFC and in MMA, I think probably ever, if we're being honest. Originally, he's supposed to face Trayshawn Gore. Now he'll be taking on short notice replacement Val Woodburn. Val Woodburn, 7-0 out of Florida, 29 years old. Been waiting for the call up for a while. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not going to ask if you think Bo Nickel is going to win because Bo Nickel is a minus 2,500 favorite. And these fights like this, really, they just help stat pad our record for the year. But what are you looking for on Saturday? What are you looking for out of him?
Just a complete MMA game, kind of just smoothness in and even in his ground game as far as it being MMA. Because if you remember in his last fight, he had look, he got the finish regardless, but it wasn't, and I remember DC talking about it wasn't like fully smooth. He got it done it quicker. It could have been better. So just him continue to show development in his overall MMA game, not just him being the wrestler. Which, he's already kind of shown that, right? Because he's finished. But at the same time, they've been against regional guys with smaller records, and probably guys that knew they were going to not going to lie, guys who probably did at the time know they were going to lose,
Mm-hmm.
And curious to see, what his opponent does too. I think that's the other thing. What can Valentine do in such short notice? Luckily they're not doing it from what we know, right? Josh hasn't been announced, but there's no catch weight, no nothing. They're going to fight at 185. So I'm assuming this guy was either preparing for a fight, was in shape. I think he was supposed to scratch that. He was supposed to fight next month on the Contender Series. That's what it was. So he was preparing for a fight against a completely different kind of opponent, a Brazilian, Marco Tulio Silva. Don't know much about his game or anything, so I'm not going to try to compare what he was preparing for. But this guy was already set to be hopefully going to the UFC. He got the call up. He's not going to have to go through Contender Series anymore. Mm-hmm. But I hope he gets something out of Bo. You know what I mean? That's another thing I want to see Bo do. How is Bo during a 3-fight stretch? If he even gets to it, if he ever has to get to it, he might not never have to do it. But I want him to bring more out of Bo. If that's something I want to get out of the fight, show me more of Bo's game.
Yeah, same page here. I'm like I said, Bo Nickel's going to go out there and probably beat this kid, probably relatively easily. I want to see this kid hopefully bring something out of Bo Nickel because, his fights have gone so quickly that we haven't really gotten to see anything out of him. I suppose that's the way you're going to want to do it. And it's
important for him for that to happen too. That's another thing you didn't know because we don't want that to happen at the wrong time when Bo starts fighting some of these better guys at 185.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to go and say this. I saw a lot of people complaining that they brought in a short notice guy instead of because I saw a lot of guys offered to fight Bo. I'm happy they brought in a short notice guy, honestly. Thinking about it, just because
he has nothing to lose.
He has nothing to lose, and also Bo only has 4 fights. I think they should take him slow anyway. I don't think there's any harm in that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying slow like Greg Hardy slow. It's also important. We should also go and say I'm not sure if you remember, but his original UFC debut kind of got it was kind of a bit disappointing because of the way it ended with Jamie Pickett and him. They thought Pickett was out and he wasn't, and they stopped the fight early. Look, Bo has a lot of potential. He's even working with Jake Paul and his Better company to get his name out there more.
He has a whole ass YouTube channel now, bro, too. Once again, another fighter with a YouTube channel.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Everybody needs him, apparently.
Everybody has a YouTube channel. Everybody has a podcast nowadays, man. That's the whole fucking meme.
Exactly.
Oh, and anybody, well, shit. It used to be. What was the other thing? Everybody used to have an NFT. That was a whole other thing.
Oh yeah, that was one too. Nonetheless, Bo Nickal's gonna win. Hopefully, this kid can test him a little bit, but we will, we'll see how things go on Saturday. Rest of the card, dude. Couple of big names on the prelims, obviously, International Fight Week, so they kind of give us a little bit more than normal. Obviously the main fight to watch on the prelims is Robbie Lawler, Nico Price. Nico Price, one of the most entertaining guys in the UFC, still taking on Robbie Lawler, who this will be his final fight, dude. So, what do you think about this one?
I mean, I think they gave him a respectable opponent, not an easy fight, but someone who can also give him a fun dance, And Nico Price, and I think also Nico Price is. I mean, who else would you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who else would have been a great choice, honestly? And on top of that, I mean, he's been doing it since he was 18,
mm-hmm.
right? Robbie Lawler's been fighting since he was 18. I mean, God, that's a long time, man. I mean, you got to give the guy credit because he could have retired. I mean, a while ago now.
Mm-hmm.
On his own terms. Like he could have been done, but he stayed around because, it's been. I mean, he's been like this his whole career. He's just one of those guys who likes to fight. That's it. He comes, he shows up and fights. We've talked about it in the past on the show. He's not a big media guy. Doesn't enjoy interviews. Doesn't enjoy all the extra shit. But the one thing he does enjoy is that fucking fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for Robbie, I think this is a good matchup for him because it's going to be a competitive one. And I think they've Robbie Lawler, I feel like he's been in a weird space, for the last couple of years where everybody's known that he's been getting older and we've been waiting for him to just wind it down. And the UFC's done a relatively good job with some of their matchmaking decisions, at least his last 3 fights. I mean, after the Neil Magny loss, they're like, all right, let's give him some veterans. They gave him the Nick Diaz fight, which was fun. They gave him the Brian Barberena fight, which was fun. And now Nico Price. I mean, a perfect trifecta. I mean, if he could have another banger, that just to send him off, that'd be perfect for ruthless Robbie Lawler. Hoping to see him get a win on Saturday. I love Nico Price, but I would love to see Robbie go out on a win, man. I would really love to see that. Also on the card, we have the return to Jock Della Maddalena, ranked number 14 in the UFC's welterweight division, one of the brightest prospects on the planet, honestly. Taking on Josiah Harrell, the muscle hamster, who's coming up from lightweight.
Is that actually what they call him, muscle hamster?
That's his nickname, the muscle hamster. He's 5'6".
Okay.
Fighting at 170, moving up on a week's notice.
AKA not cutting weight.
Not cutting weight. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that I did not mind Bo Nickel fighting a short notice guy. There's no excuse for this is just a waste of Jock Della Maddalena's time.
Hey man, you know what though? That motherfucker's still gonna get paid, so I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right. I mean, it just I meant in terms of the moving of the division and so on and so forth. But.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that department, yes. But as far as him still getting his money, getting his pay, oh yeah, he's chilling there.
Yeah. Well, as far as the rest of the card, man, which fights do you most want to highlight?
Oh man, I gotta give a quick shout out to Cameron Simon, man. He's a guy who, once again, he comes with Rodriguez from that same camp, coming up in the same kind of scene down there in AEFC. And they kind of both found their way into UFC at this point together. He's taking on Terrence Mitchell coming in on short notice. It was originally supposed to be Christian Rodriguez, which was a bout that I was actually very excited about. Terrence Mitchell 15-2, former tough house competitor. Has managed to, get some wins together. Now back. Cameron going to be fighting. Is Cameron a flyweight or is he a bantamweight? I'm gonna throw myself up. Yep, never mind. For some reason I thought they were gonna be moving up a weight class. But seemingly has looked good both of his fights in the UFC so far. Has fouled his opponent in every single one multiple times. Completely accidental on this last one. Like I kind of went back and kept tracking. I'm like, let's see if these were all things on accident. They were. So, but somehow it seems to happen every time. So there's an issue there. And my other highlight fighter. Satsu Atara, he was supposed to be on the card last week. I guess they were like, fuck it, we still want to give this kid a fight, so they got him Edgar Chaitis, Mexican fighter, I guess it would be short notice to come in and give Tatsuo a fight and obviously give Edgar a chance at UFC stardom.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of fun fights here. There's a couple of guys that are getting a chance at UFC stardom on Saturday. Guys coming in on short notice. Like, you definitely see that the UFC just says, fuck it. And they're
like, we'll sign anybody now.
Yeah, pretty much. Tatsu Utara, I highlighted him a while ago. He's back on this card. My fighter to watch this week. Not gonna give the whole spiel since I just did it like a week ago. But yeah, excited to see him back. Jimmy Crute back and badly needing a win. Going to be taking on Alonzo Menefield. They fought back in February and they'll be rematching. Fought to a draw, so should be and it's an important fight for both of those guys.
Damn, I forgot that.
Yeah, Alonzo Menefield. The time is ticking out. 35 years old, riding a decent couple of fights, and then meanwhile, Jimmy Crute, the opposite end. I mean, he's young, but he needs a win to stay in contention. So, interesting one there. Any closing thoughts on this card before we go and move on to some news?
Man, I'm just excited to see what happens this Saturday night, man. It's always so fun. You know, pay-per-view weekends are always the best, and just fight week is always the best, man. I'm just excited. That's all I can say.
Fired up. Yeah.
I'm fucking fired up, Josh. I'm rock hard with emotion, god damn it.
For real. I am rock hard with emotion right now. I got a
phone. Fucking throttle. No.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so in terms of news,
he said, moving on.
We got a fair bit of news to talk about this week, guys. Not just MMA. I mean, we got a fair bit of everything, actually, dude. So we'll go ahead and hit it off with Ultimate Fighter first. We'll go ahead and give you the recap, which admittedly there's not much to recap because again.
No, but do you want to say beforehand what happened before even the episode aired?
Oh yeah, the results of the episode leaked. In fact, the fight itself leaked as well, or not fight, but the post-fight aftermath between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. It leaked. I mean, what do you think about that whole situation?
Fucked it. I don't know who fucked up. I don't know who's putting this shit out here, but I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just interesting to me. You know, to put it simply. I do want to say, and you didn't specify it there, but it wasn't like someone who was there like leaked the fight result. Like it wasn't like some camera phone footage. This was a fully. I mean, it was edited. It was a edited finale of that episode. It was part of the episode. That just were completely shown out there on top of the whole exchange with Conor and Chandler. But as far as like talking about Tough itself, man, I mean, shit. Conor probably won't get another win. I said the weekend before, this past week, I was like, if there is a guy to win out of the guys Conor has left, it would have been Lee. Mm-hmm. And Lee was looking good until Lee wasn't looking good.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Hammond was winning that fight easily against Kurt Hollabaugh, and then he got caught with a guillotine. It happens, and Conor just kind of lost his shit. I mean, Chandler's like, stack him up. We're stacking him up the wins. And then Conor was like, great job by the Bellator guys, and they got face with him, and he shoved him, and which was hilarious, by the way, because I felt like the whole thing, it feels like Conor is just like a parody of what he used to be. Because I feel like if that was Conor, 2016 Conor, I don't think, because nobody was separating him, by the way. Like, they fucking,
There was like a little bit of initial separation, but they were kind of.
There was a bit of separation. Okay, so essentially, funny enough, it's the guy that, I can't think of his name right now, he's the guy that Conor got arrested with back for the bus. Do you remember? Him and one of his boys. I can't remember which one.
That's hilarious.
But that guy was the one who was doing the face-off between them. And then he tried to grab Chandler to stop it, and then Ryan Bader shoved him. So essentially that point, it was...
Bellator heavyweight champion, guys, by the way.
Yeah, I feel so bad for Conor's boy there, because Conor's boy fights at like welterweight or something. He's not supposed to be there, Like, it's just... He's like, what the fuck? So he got shoved by Ryan Bader. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find the guy's name, but I cannot find it. But anyways, yeah, I mean, they got the whole thing. It just feels like a bad parody of what Conor used to be, because fucking Conor gets like that. Those two start going at each other and they start shoving each other. Conor McGregor is not, of 2016, is not going to just sit there and, like, let it happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you can really say about it, man. It's just
too bad these guys aren't in Russia and just had an unsanctioned fight just right then and there, right? Could you imagine?
Well, I mean, again, dude.
Could you believe it? Conor and Michael Chandler have had a full-on fight in the on a Tough episode. It was an unsanctioned bout, but Vegas was there to take score.
Yeah. I don't have too many any closing thoughts, man. It just feels sad. I mean, we're watching this show and it's just like, man, Conor, man.
What are you doing? You kind of just hope that one of the guys get it. But you know what's kind of sad though? Like, with all the fucking guys winning on Chandler's team, it's like they're all gonna, and then look, it happens all the time. Guys from the same team face off, but it's kind of like, no matter what, you're gonna face one of your teammates, which is kind of like, damn, you know, especially because as you watch the season, all the vets have gotten really close, you know? I mean, everybody in the season's gotten relatively close. There hasn't been a lot of, compared to the two seasons before, there hasn't been any, I guess, drama between fighters at all. The only bit of tension there ever was Brad Katona kind of during his episode because he seemed a little distant, but it was completely tactical on his part. I mean, it was fully explainable. And by the end of the episode, it kind of came back, but you could tell that it kind of affected the team a little bit because there was kind of a sour taste left in everybody's mouth, kind of the way Brad was fighting. Even Brad said himself, he's like, I think, well, he didn't talk about his teammates, but he said, I think Chandler specifically was probably like, damn, Brad's such a fucking diva.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this whole season has just felt like, I said it like in episode like 3, I think I said this. I said that like it feels weird. And I feel like that feeling hasn't gone away, man. It's just like, because like I said, Conor just feels like he's parodying himself, dude. Like it doesn't feel like he's being authentic whatsoever. He's barely there for his team. And I even saw Chandler. Like Chandler went after Conor tried to fight him and make a whole big scene. He went and high-fived his team. Like he went and high-fived Conor's team. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you guys have to deal with this. Like I'm sorry that you guys don't have a real coach. One thing I will say in defense of Conor, we talked about this off air. Just looking at the talent level of the prospects versus the veterans, the prospects were always going to get washed.
Especially because of the vets they brought too.
Yeah, I mean they brought in legitimately good guys, and they're bringing some of the prospects they're bringing in are guys who are like 37, who have like never even fought up in the B league level of the LFA. Like, you know what I mean? Like.
By the way, now do you kind of agree with me? You kind of wish there was kind of some inner mixture of fight. You know, they would have picked.
Yes. Yeah, you were right. I think
because I thought this was like I didn't like. Look, I hoped right. I hope some of the guys would shine through, but deep down in me, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to put the guys who've already been at the top and are good and had that pressure and been there before against guys who've never ever had anything close to that. Dude, it's like you have. What's the best compare? It's like you have a fucking a polar bear, like a fucking pack of hungry polar bears versus a pack of hungry wolves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what team is gonna win? You know, like they're both hungry. They both want it really bad, but one's hungrier than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I just feel like at this point in his career, I feel like Conor's not very hungry for it, and I get it. And also some of those vets too, like I got the Kurt Holloway, like the hunger that he feels to get back to the UFC, like that's a guy that wants to prove himself. I just wonder how different that may be for a younger guy who just has dreams of grandeur, who thinks he's getting to UFC and just sleepwalk his way there, versus a guy like Kurt Holloway who's been through the fucking ringer. Like,
by the way, are you kind of disappointed in that Chandler's like, you've seen how good of a coach Chandler's been on Tough? You kind of wish he kind of had a more formidable, at least, coach. You know, that is just, obviously Conor's a good opponent, but I mean, as far as like coach, you know, to make.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I think I don't know. I think I feel like it's actually been perfect. The differences, because it just shows like. I mean,
it shows a parallel, but I feel like it would have made the season more fun if Chandler would have had someone to coach against. You know, I feel like that's the.
Yeah. I just wish Conor wasn't even involved, honestly. Like, if he wasn't actually going to coach, what's the point?
Because to me, dude, there's like two competitions in Tough. The actual fighters amongst themselves, and then it's the coaches competing against each other as coaches, and then their fight as fighters.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of missing out, you know. And like I said, it's not the first time we've had like it kind of to an extent, right? He's giving me a bit of Amanda vibes. You know what I mean? You remember how I told you on the Amanda and Juliana season, like how great of a coach Juliana was, but how kind of like to an extent I felt like Nunes was a little non-existent. Like she was there, she cared, but I felt like Nina Nunes did most of the talking and coaching during the actual fight rather than Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not wrong. I think there's definitely been good and bad coaches. There's definitely more coaches that are more in tune with the team.
And granted, Conor still did bring his coaching staff. Like, what's his name is still there. Why am I blanking on him? Our guy from SPG. I'm blanking on his name. Why am I right now?
John Kavanaugh.
I mean, John Kavanaugh is still there. I mean, they still have access to a great coach. I mean, don't get it twisted, But, it's definitely, I mean, fighters, dude, a lot of times, fighters always have fighters in their corner, for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
Shit, fucking this past week, Devin Clark was there, Charles Oliveira was there, who else was there? I mean, shit, I know it's his brother, but Keith Lee was there, obviously former fighter as well. I mean, multiple coaches are former fighters themselves, like, there's a reason why fighters are, there's a reason that why not all the coaches are just coaches, but also former fighters and coaches.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, we mentioned earlier, Ryan Bader's there. I mean, they've got a couple of former fighters coaches or current fighters, but yeah, I mean, I think this season is tough. I mean, I think that's kind of all my thoughts on it. It's just
it's been kind of a letdown in comparison to like, look, we talked about how the last two they were a bit rough, but I mean, I'd say, we're talking like fighter wise, this one's been rough and even coaching wise, but I guess the drama between Conor and Chandler's kind of made it still somewhat interesting, but it almost feels like you already know the results of the season before, we're just watching the first few episodes. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's just disappointing. That's all my kind of thought. It is what it is, In the words of Max Holloway, it is what it is. I mean, I don't have to. It's just.
Could you imagine a season of Nate and Conor now, dude?
I think if Nate was there, he'd care. I don't think he's ever cared about Michael Chandler. I legitimately think that's it. Because like whenever you're at Conor McGregor's, like think about who he's fought since he came back, like since the Floyd fight. There's only fights that he's wanted to be there for, right? Like he fought Habib because they had that big beef. He fought Cerrone because he needed a big win, and they had history and they talked shit back and forth in the past. Then he fought Poirier, who had already fought before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just my view on it, and I don't think.
But I think now, like I told you, and once again we talked about it off air. He's kind of now developing a reason to fight Chandler. Like I think it's actually, if there is one good thing that comes out of this season, and no hate to the fighters, it's the fact that Conor is building up a reason to want to fight Chandler.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean I don't have anything else to add to it.
Those are the closing thoughts for that.
Just disappointing. And we'll see if Conor. I want Conor to get one win. I just want to see him get one. If he doesn't get one, God bless. It's just
poor guys.
But, we talked about it last week. We said maybe Alistair Overeem is going to go down to light heavyweight. Maybe said rise and maybe one championship. Nah, dog. Alistair Overeem is retired. He announced it on a recent podcast. He said, "I'm vegetarian now. I don't eat meat. I don't want meat, and I'm tired of fighting. It's not my thing anymore." Angel, what are your thoughts, man? The retirement of an all-time legend. He just kind of like did it really low key. He did it on like a podcast, like 1,000 subs. Like he just.
Hey man, that's respectable. However you want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? As long as you dictate it.
Exactly. But yeah, man. What do you think about the Ream, the Demolition Man, hanging it up?
I mean, it's sad. I mean, there was obviously we never got to see the Rico Verhoeven fight that we were had some interest in developing at the time. Obviously, one talked about this hope of having this open weight Muay Thai tournament, and he kind of was like, oh, there's, he showed some interest there. Didn't end up getting that either. But hey, man, as long as he's happy, that it is what it is. So be it. I mean, he leaves no questions unanswered. It's one of my favorite things to say when a fighter retires, Josh. He leaves no questions unanswered.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably a really good way to put it. He left no questions unanswered, The Ring, you got to see him fight just about everybody that, like, you probably wanted to. There's not any dream fights.
And didn't want to either as well.
Yeah, I mean, the only real dream fight I guess I could think of would be probably Fedor Emelianenko. Those two didn't fight, but outside of that, I can't think of anybody.
He was a baby, bro, back then, though, too. He was young.
Yeah, but he was in Pride, and he fought a couple other guys, and they were, I believe they were also in Strikeforce at the same time. They had overlap. It just didn't come together. But yeah, I mean, the Reem, hell of a career, an all-time great, and it's just so Alistair Overeem that, like, he just kind of was like, I'm done. Like, it's just I don't got to do this anymore. It's just I'm just gonna pack it in. I'm gonna go do something else. Like, that's literally what he said. Whenever he was asked about why he's retiring, he's like, it's not my thing anymore. I'm like, I appreciate that honesty.
Is that how he worded it? Is that?
Yeah, he literally is just like, I don't like this anymore. This isn't my thing anymore.
That's kind of how it usually is for the fighters, right? They just don't enjoy it anymore.
Well, he's definitely not hurting for money, so I think that's a part of it too.
That's good.
But anyways, man, Jim A10 Miller, who we've talked about on the Fair Show a couple of times recently. Obviously, he knocked out Jesse Butler last month. He's talked about UFC 300 a fair bit, and we've said that he should fight Joe Lozon. He's actually named his opponent now. He said that UFC 300 potential final fight, I want Matt the Immortal Brown, and I want him at 170.
Yep.
Kind of out of nowhere, man, but I'm actually really down with it.
I'm DTF, dude, because that could be a dual retirement fight.
It really could be. Now, he did say that he's not sure if he'll retire at UFC 300, but he said it.
What a dog, dude. Could you imagine if he still kept going after that?
UFC 400!
Jesus, how many more years would that be?
It's like 6 years, I think.
I mean, I'll be alive for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the question, but I mean, yeah, dude, Jim Miller is a dog. I mean, he said that, like, I went up the welterweight against Cowboy, and I was like, why do I fight at lightweight? It's just, and at this point in his career, he might as well move up. I mean, he's not going to win a title. But he's also not in danger of being cut either. So. If you don't have to cut weight and you can just have some fun veteran fights, you might as well. I think this is a fight that makes a lot of sense. I mentioned Joe Lozon. Funnily enough, I saw an update recently where he tried to get a fight UFC Boston, but they couldn't come to an agreement on a fight.
Oh, wow. Joe did?
Yeah.
That's dope.
But so Joe Lozon's not retired, but he's not going to be at UFC Boston, which is a bit lame.
Because he's going to be at UFC 300, God damn it.
God willing, right? But at the very least, he won't be facing Jim Miller.
By the way, around what time next year will UFC 300 land?
It depends. I mean, it depends on how many sometimes they do 2 pay-per-views in a month. There's not really a way to.
I guess you're. I mean, in October we'll have UFC 294. I'm assuming we'll get another pay-per-view after that, so they'll end the year at 295. So I'm expecting closer to mid-early next year.
Yeah.
Around this time.
Some potentially around like May.
Yep. I just caught a fly. I'm Mr. Miyagi. I shit you not. I just caught a fly while we were on.
Holy shit!
Are you?
Oh my god! Fucking godlike, dude. I mean, out of nowhere.
Dude, what? Too bad we don't do this Too bad we don't have any fucking video, dude.
See, this is why the podcast needs to be video. This is the only reason why.
Because you get to see my godlike reflexes. You get to see the two idiots that sit on a couch and talk about UFC fights.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's my closing thoughts on Jim Miller, dude. This next one came out of nowhere. So, Tyson Fury, who's been busy ducking and running from Alexander Usyk, he's been trying to get an opponent for a while now. So has been Francis Ngannou, except they haven't really been talking. Instead, Ngannou's been talking about fighting Wilder, and Fury's been linked to the fight with Usyk. The Usyk fight is off, and Wilder is apparently looking at fighting Andy Ruiz and then AJ. With that in mind, Eddie Hearn apparently, he said that these two are apparently in talks to fight later this year in September. Eddie said that it might be an exhibition, but it's important to remember that Eddie Hearn is quite literally, Tyson Fury's rival promoter. So it's in his best interest to downplay a fight. But, what do you think, man? I'm down for this. I'll watch it.
You know I'm down. You know I'm fucking down, dude. Come on.
I'm DTF. I'm down to fight. I'm down to see this fight no matter what.
By the way, I can't believe it's taken this long to do Wilder Andy with the whole back and forth. And we've been talking about that fight for almost like, what, a year and a half, 2 years now? It's been quite some time that we've talked about that fight potentially happening, or just those guys being matched up in general.
Yeah, well then they got ordered to fight late last year, and they just haven't been able to do it because Andy said he won't fight for anything less than 50-50, and Wilder said there's no fucking way he's deserving of a 50-50 split at this point in his career. Which I'm not gonna say is wrong.
I mean, you gotta give credit to Andy though, because he's a former champ too.
Yeah, but you also can't pretend that they're in the same spot, like drawing power wise.
No, I mean,
I think.
Look, this might be a hot take. I think they're closer to each other than you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, but they probably won't fight anyway. I mean, nonetheless.
I'm sure. I mean, it's a money issue. They'll figure it out. It'll probably take quite some time, and they might even get the deal done by the end of this year and do it next year, knowing our fucking luck. Regardless, though, I do imagine those guys will probably come, fight at some point. It'll just be quite some time because of some stupid deal that takes too long because these guys can't agree on money.
Yeah, I mean, it might happen, but I mean, I think regardless, back to the original one, I think this, yeah, man, I mean, I'll watch Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. I really hope that it's not a fucking exhibition, like Eddie said that it may be. I really hope it's not. Also watch it even if it is, just to see, because I think it's, I mean, the best, MMA fighter on the planet, the baddest man on the planet.
What the fuck is AJ fighting?
AJ's been fighting Dillian White.
Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, I remember that. Forgot that got announced. Fuck me.
Yep. So that's gonna be going down later this year.
What a banger.
Yeah, right. I'm excited for it. I mean, I'll watch that one, but yeah, I mean, anyway. Next one up. This made no news. I was very surprised that nobody really talked about this. Anderson Silva, who we have not seen since the Jake Paul loss that was last October, he said that he is going to fight in Japan for his final fight. Currently, he does not have an opponent. He also said that he's not going to name the promoter because he said he's in talks with multiple ones.
Dude, it could only be 2 or 3, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Ryzen or probably Bellator,
one.
Yeah.
What is it? Pancreas, right? Still around?
Pancreas is around.
They still have Shudo as well?
Shudo is still around, yeah.
So, I mean, those are the only, I think, ones that probably could, 1, give them money, and 2, would bring an interesting opponent and make it a big event.
Yeah, I agree. Nonetheless, what do you think about this? I think Anderson Silva retiring in Japan. That's
badass.
Pretty fucking sick. Badass,
Badass. Simple as that, dude. What a way to end it. I mean, obviously he had his UFC retirement, but for him to want to do it the way he wants to do it and in no other place in fucking Japan, dude, sick as fuck. And, I mean, all fighters talk about how much they love fighting in Japan and being part of events in Japan, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Anderson's a dog. I'm glad he's coming back for one more. And, yeah,
dude,
man.
You know how I feel like a long time ago, we would shit on maybe old guy fights or old guys continuing trying to fight. I feel but dude, they really got you remember Rocky Balboa? They're really embracing the Rocky Balboa mindset, man, and dog, wanting to prove themselves even near the end. Granted, the story of Rocky Balboa, it's Rocky's fighting a prime, fighter, and Rocky's, fucking old. I don't remember if you I don't know if you remember that scene in Rocky Balboa where they're at the gym. And they're
yeah.
Well, you can't fucking work out because you got this. You can't do this because there's an issue with your back. Your hands are fucked up. You're fucked up. This is fucked up. You're just fucked up.
I have seen that, yeah.
That fucking scene. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was something along the lines of that.
That's close enough. Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm happy that Anderson's retiring in Japan. I think it's sick. I love that he'll be heading back there, and I hope it comes to fruition. I really hope it does.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's not a done deal yet, so.
It's not. But anyway, speaking of deals that are not done, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are still teasing that they're going to fight. There has been no update on that. I saw that Elon recently showed a picture of his quote-unquote training, and it's a team of like what is it? It's like GSP,
John Danaher, and Lex Friedman.
And Lex Friedman. So apparently they're actually going to do this fucking thing. So if they actually do this thing, who would you put on the undercard? Because you can't really have like actual MMA fighters in the undercard, can you? Like that'd be kind of like an insult in a way, you know?
Come on, you're gonna have Dude, of course Ronda's gonna come back. That's gonna be headlines too, right?
Well, anyways, I guess Logan Paul said that he's down to go ahead and hop on there, dude. He said that he wants
CM Punk return.
No. You know who he wants? Logan Paul said he wants to fight in the undercard, and he wants Patty the Batty. He said he wants Patty Pimblett.
Dude, you know what made me laugh? People were like, he's a fucking flyweight. I'm like, dude, Patty Pimbett's a fucking heavyweight in his offseason. You don't think they can find a weight to fight at? Granted, I'm being funny, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I saw that, Logan was talking about it. He's like, Patty normally fights at 155, but when he's out of camp, he's a fucking blimp. So I don't see why we can't fight,
I mean, is he wrong? Like,
he's not entirely wrong, no. Like, it's just, he might hate Logan Paul, but, I mean, he's not wrong on that one. Yeah, I mean, I'm down to see it. Fuck it. I've always said Logan Paul fighting UFC intrigues me more than any sort of boxing or any sort of, I like him in WWE, but I prefer MMA just because, like, I think he has a base in MMA. Like, he trained wrestling. He's a really, really good collegiate wrestler. So I'm down to see it happen, If they're going to do this card, we might as well have some fun with it. But yeah, I mean, that's my kind of closing thoughts.
Just a shit show, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Nonetheless, man, this is our last piece of the day. We gotta go ahead and we gotta shout him out, Angel. Because this is a special July 4th edition of the Courtside Soundoff podcast.
Oh, God.
And yesterday, the Glizzy Gladiator, Joey Chestnut, were knocking down 62 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Yo, they called it off, Angel. I'm not sure if you saw this. They called it off due to rain. And then it's like the glass shattered, dude. It's like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He runs back out. He's like, I don't give a damn if the other one's coming out, but I'm putting these hot dogs down. Like, fucking legendary moment.
Top 10 all sports pictures, dude. Joey Chestnut walking out.
Joey Chestnut is the fucking Michael Jordan of eating, dude. Just an absolute legend. I had to shout him out. It was the most American shit I've ever seen.
People shit talk this thing a lot, and people are like, dude, eating's not a sport or whatever. I'm like, dude, I'd love to see anybody else do what he just did. I would love to see anybody do what he just did. I feel like this always applies to shit. Like I'm talking about, like when people make fun of people like chess, like F1, like competitive gaming. I'm like, dude, I'd love to see you do what he just did against all those other people who are also trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call eating a sport, but what I do know is that whatever Joey Chestnut did yesterday was impressive as fuck.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, whatever you want to say, dude, like, I would love to see someone try to do what he just did, because I don't think you'll be able to do it.
No. He's got that dog in him, dude. I mean, Joey Chestnut, he's won how many times in a row? Something insane? I mean... Like 8 in a row. I think yesterday was his best performance, but, he got the job done.
It's up there. He broke the record like 2 years ago, his personal best, which was like 67 hot dogs. Dude, it was funny. The guy said he was averaging, during that world record, I think 12 hot dogs per minute.
Damn.
Dude, just think about eating one fucking hot dog, dude, how long it fucking takes you, dude. This guy was down in 12 a minute.
Damn. That's fucking crazy. What a dog, dude. What a dog. Joey Chestnut. I mean, I'm glad, just unreal, most American shit I'd ever seen. They called it off due to rain. Fuck no, man.
If that's not the part of the U.S., then I don't know what is.
For real. I mean, the only thing that could be more American, if he had like a gun in his hand, he was just, maybe he was drunk at the same time, I don't know. Joey Chestnut's a dog.
That just sounds like a bad combo, dude.
Huh?
That just sounds like a bad combo waiting to happen.
No, I don't know. That just sounds like a Saturday night for me.
Right.
nonetheless, man, I don't got anything else. You got anything else to shout out before we go ahead and close out of here, man?
Shout out to the people always watching us, man. Always love and appreciate you guys every week coming out, showing us love, especially to all new viewers and listeners out there, whatever platform you may be on. Please like and subscribe and comment on this video if you are watching on video on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Rate us on iTunes. And give us a follow every single Friday. New episode each week. Consistent content. Consistent clips on the TikTok. Close it out, Josh.
Yeah. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show as well. I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at Angel Ortega _everyone. At Courtside Sound for all things on Twitter. Quick reminder, because Twitter has been destroyed over the last month. We are on other places outside of Twitter. That's just always been my own personal social media that I use the most. So if you guys have ever wanted to find me, that's probably where you can do it. However, with so much uncertainty in Twitter, we do have accounts TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. We're everywhere you can think of, you can probably find us. Also Threads, which is apparently going to be Twitter's competitor, I guess, made by Instagram. We're going to be there, which launches later this week.
I didn't know that, Josh, but thank you for telling me while we were live on air.
Exactly. Yes. Instagram is launching their own competitor to Twitter. It comes out tomorrow. So yeah, that's where I'll probably be moving forward. I'll keep my Twitter account for probably a couple months until it eventually shits to bed. But, it's been destroyed lately, but yeah. As far as the show goes, I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a fun time. UFC 290 this Saturday, guys. Go out, have a nice week. It's International Fight Week. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Peace and bud grease. Mouse click.